Please find your seats so we can begin with the next panel. Please find your seats so we can begin with the next panel. 1 minute. Thank you.
All right, a few short announcements before we start our third session of the forum. If you could please keep your phones off of the Wi-Fi temporarily until the program's over. Additionally, when we are done, you could please pick up your trash. We're going to get started in about 30 seconds. Everyone can please find your chair. Thank you, Mr. Krause. At this time, I'm going to ask Amy Norton to come forward and she's going to introduce our candidates for House District 33. As you've seen with the previous candidates, we're going to go in ballot order. The first candidate will be closest to the men's row, and so on. So at this time, I'm going to ask Amy Norton to come forward, and we'll get this thing started out.
Turn off your phones.
Okay, so once again, we are going to announce the candidates running for House District 33. And when I read bios, if the candidates will please come up to the front of the table. Dennis served with distinction in the United States Marine Corps from 1986 to 1994. While serving, he met his wife Sherry, and the couple's shared values and innovative spirit led them to relocate to Rockwall County in 2018. Dennis is driven by a commitment to preserve and promote Texas conservative heritage. He is actively involved in Rockwall's GOP community, contributing to Republican men's, women's, and Hispanic clubs. His dedication to veterans is extensive, holding multiple memberships, including in the Marine Corps League and American Legion. Dennis also contributes to security initiatives through roles in the U.S. Marshals Posse and the North Texas Crime Commission. Dennis and Sherry have been married 32 years, are devout Christians, and embody a life of service, faith, and conservative advocacy in Rockwall. Katrina Pierson has been a conservative voice in Texas and across the nation for 15 years. Her public service record includes appointments to various boards by local governments, an appointment to Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick's advisory board, and an official recognition by proclamation during the 83rd Texas Legislature. Katrina proudly served as a national spokesperson for President Trump's 2016 campaign and was a 2020 senior advisor. She is a recipient of the RNC Trailblazer Award for her record-breaking ability to reach new communities and grow the Republican Party, currently serves on the board of the Pro-Life Human Coalition. Katrina is a Forney High School graduate and went on to earn a degree in biology from UT Dallas. Her son attended public school in Rowlett, and she now resides in the Sonoma Verde community. State Representative Justin Holland has been deeply committed to his community for nearly 4 decades. A Rockwall High School grad alum, Justin's roots in the area are profound, as is his dedication to our district. He resides in Heath, Texas, where he has served as a city council member and runs a successful real estate brokerage in Rockwall, demonstrating his commercial spirit and economic commitment. Since 2017, Justin has represented District 33, currently serving as the chairman of the Texas Sunset Advisory Commission. His leadership extends to community involvement, including membership in the Rockwall Rotary Club, the Rockwall ISD Education Foundation, Rockwall Boys and Girls Club, and Heath Economic Development Corporation. He is married to his Texas Tech sweetheart, Neely, and together they are raising 2 daughters in Rockwall ISD. The Hollands are active members of Lake Point Church.
Thank you, Amy. I will advise the candidates to please speak into the microphone. Additionally, if you check the lights at the front, each of your questions will be 60 seconds. Your closing will be 90 seconds. When your time begins, the green light will come on. When you have 30 seconds remaining, the yellow light will come on. And when your time is up, the red light will come on. I will not cut you off mid-sentence. I will allow you to complete your thoughts, but please be respectful of the time. I will read the questions once. If you would need me to repeat that, please ask. Here we go. The order of the first question will be London, Pierson, Holland. In Texas, you must be 21 years old when buying a handgun. But an 18-year-old may purchase a long gun to include an AR-15 type rifle. Do you support increasing the minimum rifle purchase age to 21? Mr. London, you have 60 seconds.
Every law-abiding citizen has the right to defend themselves. That's guaranteed through our Constitution. I do not agree with raising the limit from 18 to 21 just because of an age. It's not a gun problem. It's a mental health issue. And that needs to be addressed. That's something that we can do. Just saying that you're going to raise the age just because somebody else did something has no direct correlation to what anybody else is going to do. So we should not punish those who have never done anything wrong, especially if they are old enough to join our military and old enough to join the police force and are actually trained with these weapons. I don't agree with that.
Ms. Pierson, you have 60 seconds.
My light's not. There we go. Like, no light. Okay. I actually do not agree with raising the age to purchase a firearm. If we are going to send our children into combat at the age of 18, just doesn't make any sense. Not to mention that the Constitution does not state an age limit on when a person should own a firearm, and I will have to agree that it is a mental health issue, and we have not paid enough attention to mental health in this state, and that is one of the things that I would like to address as your next state's representative.
I'm glad I get a chance to address this issue because this is one that came up, and I'm certain that I'm definitely the reason it was asked. This session, we had a bill about raising the age to buy an AR-15 from 18 to 21. A state in which you cannot drink alcohol, you cannot buy a can of snuff or a pack of cigarettes, and you cannot buy a handgun until you're 21 years old. I have a perfect voting record with the NRA except this one vote. I have passed the Second Amendment Sanctuary State Act as the author of the bill with Senator Hall or Governor Abbott. I voted for permitless carry. You do not have to have a license to carry a handgun in the state of Texas anymore. I passed online license to carry in 2017. I am not a gun grabber. I am not trying to go after your Second Amendment rights. I believe that there's a conversation to be had in the state of Texas and this country because I prioritize our communities and I prioritize our children in schools. And I do believe that if you can't buy a handgun until you're 21, you can't smoke cigarettes until you're 21, you can't drink beer until you're 21, we can have a conversation about whether an 18-year-old should be able to go out and buy an AR-15 the day that they turn 18, and that's the way I feel. And I think 61% of you out there do.
I would ask the audience to please maintain your decorum, or we're going to be here till midnight. The next question, the order will be Pierson, London, Holland. Here's the question. In the last session, the House General Investigating Committee made actions against Brian Slayton, and Attorney General Ken Paxton. The Republican voter base seems agreeable to the Slayton decision, but not agreeable to the Paxton decision. How do you reconcile the differing perspectives? Ms. Pierson.
Thank you for the question. It's very simple. I have 2 words: due process. It was very important that due process is given to anyone that's been accused of a crime. The House did not do a proper investigation. They did not have witnesses under oath, whereas on the Slayton side, every Republican was unanimous with his expulsion, but on Ken Paxton's side, you had a handful of Republicans join unanimously with Democrats to lead the attack on the Attorney General, and that is absolutely wrong. And the question I would ask all of you to think of, if the situation was reversed, do you think Democrats would join with Republicans to impeach their Attorney General? Absolutely not. That was unacceptable and unconscionable considering the state that we're in this country today.
Mr. London?
Thank you. I was actually up in Holland County and was on the courthouse steps supporting Ken Paxton when that happened. I understand that there was a lot of people upset, and a lot of people said, oh, well, he did wrong, he did wrong, he did wrong. But again, what Ms. Pierson said, there was no proof. There wasn't any sworn testimony. There was no proof given. He had no due process. It was an unconstitutional and actually an illegal act going against the Attorney General, who's the one who's been leading the fight against the Biden administration, keeping Texas secure, keeping Texas strong, and maintaining our way of lifestyle. Regarding Slayton, that whole process, yes, he messed up, he got caught. There was due process. He was convicted and he was ousted. Thank you.
Mr. Holland?
It would take a little bit more understanding of the Texas House rules and the Texas House Constitution to understand that the Texas House went by the letter of the law to the House.
Please maintain your decorum. Excuse me, Mr. Holland. I need everybody to maintain your decorum.
If you could reset my time, Patty.
Absolutely.
The Texas House went to the letter of the law by our House rules. The investigation on General Paxton started in February when he asked for $3.3 million of your dollars out of the House budget to pay for his whistleblower violation lawsuit, which he's now tried 13 times and just admitted to, which is vindication for the Texas House. The highest law enforcement officer in the state of Texas has tried 13 times to skirt the oath. He doesn't want to have to tell the truth. So if you're asking me if we did, you know what? If we would have had a little bit more time, maybe we would have had 140 votes.
Folks, I would simply ask, as opposed to those outbursts, we talk about folks coming from California that vote with their feet. Vote with your votes. Okay? This is the Republican Party. Let's maintain some decorum. The next question, the order will be Holland, Pierson, London. Here's the question. In the U.S. Congress and more than 85% of the state legislative chambers, the minority party is not allowed to have members chairing committees. The Republican-controlled Texas House allows rules for Democrats to chair committees. What are the pros and cons of having Democrat committee chairs? Mr. Holland.
Raise your hand if you liked your property tax cut this year. Not everybody liked your property tax cut? Okay. Well, here's the thing. In the Texas House, you have to have 100 votes to get anything passed as a constitutional amendment. 100 votes. Does anybody know how many Republicans there are? 86. We have to work with Democrats on some things. Is there any retired teachers or families of retired teachers that got a cost of living adjustment this year? Does anybody like the fact that we passed a state ban on income tax? What about Veterans Affairs? You have to, the fact is, if you think that Democrats run the Texas House, why did we pass constitutional carry? Why have we saved over 10,000 babies? Why did we stop gender modification? Why did we ban sexually explicit books in schools? Why did we keep kids from going to drag shows? Why do we make Texas a Second Amendment sanctuary state? If you think the Democrats run the Texas House, do you think they would have ever allowed any of those things?
Ms. Pierson, you have 60 seconds.
Since the question is about Democrat chairs, I mean, all you have to do is look at the House Speaker, who was recently endorsed by the AFL-CIO. So we should not have Democrat chairs. We're the only state that does this. And I'll ask you another question. Do you think if Democrats took over the House that they would give Republican chairs? Absolutely not. And the reason why we were able to get some of these things through is because that's the cost of doing business in Austin. It's tit for tat. You help me, I'll help you. And that's how they maintain their power, and it should end. I was on the front lines of this fight back when we had Joe Strauss as Speaker, and I worked to get House District 33's former representative, Scott Turner, to be Speaker, and it failed because Republicans used a secret ballot to have that done, which means they are not representing you, they're representing Austin.
Mr. London, you have 60 seconds.
I stood strong down in Austin on the first week. I was actually down there on the second day when that whole vote went through. There is no reason whatsoever to give the minority party any political power as a committee chair in a Republican-led legislature, especially one that we have been ruling as far as running the legislature as Republicans for over 22 years, going on almost a quarter of a century. We should be scraping the bottom of the barrel just to find a Republican priority to pass. Instead, the barrel is full and we have our pick. Why? Because they're busy giving away the power that you elect down to Austin. It's time for this to stop. It's a moronic policy and it has no place being in Texas.
Yeah. You can have 50 seconds rebuttal, Mr. Holland.
Thank you. I would submit that one of the reasons that Dennis moved here from California in 2018 is because it's one of the best places in the country to live. So if you don't think that the way that the Texas House and the Texas Senate and the Republican-led government are bringing good policies forward for you year after year after year, we have a great way that we do things. And yes, Republicans have appointed Democrat chairs in the past, and Democrat chairs have appointed Republican chairs in the past. It's happened for 100 years. It's the way that we've done it. It's the way that we've created the Texas miracle. Republicans are in charge of the Texas House.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. The next several questions will come from Mr. Andrew Greenberg to your front. Andrew, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Peak. So the order here will be London, Holland, Pierson. Since the Texas electric grid's near collapse in February 2021, has the Texas legislature done enough to ensure that the grid can meet current and future demands? Is our Texas grid too reliant on wind and solar energies? If so, how does it need to change?
Yes, it's too reliant on that unreliable energy source. We need to go back to making sure that we have the reliable energies that we had prior to some of the legislation which put forth some of these ideas that, oh, solar is going to save us or wind is going to save us. We watched on the news as those wind turbines froze. Some of them actually caught fire. We watched as people's homes froze. People died in their homes. We had problems that if we had stuck with coal, or perhaps, hey, guess what? Nuclear is a clean energy source, and it provides a lot more on a per unit basis. So yes, there could be a lot more done. I don't know specifically what was done, but I do know that it wasn't enough.
Mr. Holland?
Well, I do know what was done because I was the author of House Bill 1500, which dealt with the ERCOT and the PUC, the Public Utilities Commission, this last session. And we've kept the lights on through the last 2 summers and the last 2 winters. We've made a number of sweeping changes. And yes, I do believe that we are too reliant on wind and solar because the wind doesn't blow all the time and the sun's not out all the time. But we do need to we are growing so fast that we have to continue to keep up with the thermal energy resources in this state. And we've done that, and we've made changes to the law that incentivizes generators to build more, and we're doing that right now. I think that we've done a great enough job for now, but just like Rockwall County growing in roads and water, we've got to do the same with our electric generation, and it does need to be more thermal. And if we could get the federal government to give us nuclear permits, then we would build more of that. But right now, we've got a disastrous Biden administration.
I'd like to actually thank Mr. Holland for his work on that, and for the sake of repeating everything Dennis London just said, I just want to add something that I think is very important, and that is, when I was down in the legislature fighting for a lot of these issues, the grid was one of them. Before Bob Hall even became a senator, we were fighting this issue. So my question is, why is it taking so long? We had a Republican president. Why is it taking so long? So we can't blame the federal government if we're still having the same issue we had 10 years ago. But I agree, we should move more to fossil fuels. We're in Texas. And I gotta tell you, the only reason why I survived at my house without power for 2 days is because I had just come back from DC and had a box of Hot Pockets that I had to line in my bed. That's not acceptable for a state like Texas.
The order of this next question will be Pierson, Holland, London. Securing the international border with Mexico is fundamentally and constitutionally a federal responsibility. Has Texas done enough to shore up the failures of the federal government? And I would like to say, we all have seen the recent developments with our governor fighting back against the Biden administration, but please be specific to a legislative priority that would deal with this issue.
Thank you for the question. I do applaud our governor for stepping up and doing the things that he's doing currently, and yes, we can do more. We all know that if Texas declared an invasion, we could take more measures. I mean, the federal government does control the border, but Texas controls the roads. But more importantly, again, I'll go back to dealing with this issue even 10 years ago. Legislatively, we still have not been able to eliminate the magnets that are bringing illegals to our state. We've fallen behind, in fact, when it comes to protecting citizens from the invasion, even from 10 years ago, because other states have already implemented things that we should do in Texas, like repealing in-state tuition, like mandating E-Verify, like some states are even getting ahead of this crisis because millions have come here and they're eliminating people from distributing government IDs to illegals and prohibiting them from coming in from other states. And those are legislative acts that we should do, not just because of the border crisis, but because of the ones who are already here.
Mr. Holland.
Thank you. In my time in the legislature, we've increased border security funding by 630%. That's this last session, $6.6 billion, 1.5 of which goes to start to build our own wall, thanks to Governor Abbott, and all of the other things that we've done, like putting Texas military, Texas DPS on the border. We started criminalizing illegal entry and reentry. We are putting the necessary technology that we need all the way from ground cameras to high altitude and low altitude airplanes and drones. And the bottom line is, until President Trump is reelected and he's in the White House again, we will not be able to fix this problem, because Joe Biden is a disaster, and Greg Abbott and Donald Trump will be able to fix this problem together.
Mr. London.
Appreciate it. So border security is not just a national issue, especially here in Texas. It's a state issue, but it's also not just a state issue. It's a county issue, it's a community issue, it's our neighborhood issue. We have human trafficking, drug trafficking, sex trafficking of minors coming through. I-30, if you talk to any of the law enforcement around here, I-30 will tell you it's a drug corridor. You can ask any of our law enforcement. So we have a problem. And while there was a little over $6 billion allocated towards border security, thank you, by the way, there was $10 billion that was given for corporate welfare. Why tend to them but not the border? We don't have a problem with companies wanting to come here. We have a problem with our border. That money would have been much better spent securing our border, locking down our infrastructure, and keeping things running. Because we don't have a problem with the federal government wanting to come in here. We know they're coming in here, and what do they want to do? They want to tell us that we can't stop them from cutting the wire. We can't continue to build. Well, we need to do it. And Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 of the Texas Constitution gives the governor full ability and access to do it.
The order of our next question will be Holland, London, Pierson. Many school districts across Texas claim they are underfunded and teachers are reportedly underpaid. The Texas House and Senate disagree on whether school vouchers or educational savings accounts are valid alternatives. Where do you stand? And if you are not aligned with the party platform, in what ways do you disagree?
Since I started running for this race in 2015 and 16, I've always been a proud and staunch supporter of public education in Texas. I do not support the use of public dollars for private schools. I believe it is unaccountable. I believe that it will end up harming schools in the state of Texas. I do disagree on that issue. Yes, teachers need to be paid more. They need to be paid better. They need to be retained. We need to give bonuses for student achievement. I believe we need to raise the basic allotment in public schools from $6,160 to over $7,000 so that they can keep good teachers, because why do people move to Rockwall, Texas? They move to Rockwall, Texas because of our schools. I do not agree with public dollars going to private schools.
Mr. London?
Educational freedom is a fundamental right of the parents. They should be able to choose where their children go, the education they receive, the level and quality of said education. And the problem we have is that our public schools, yes, our public schools, are they underfunded? Well, I don't know. 75% of McClendon Chisholm's property tax rates all go to the ISDs. I don't know, maybe they do get enough money. 57% statewide goes to the ISDs. Where is the money going? Do teachers have a pay issue? Yes, we know teachers have a pay issue, but it's administration costs. Why don't we utilize a zero-based budget analysis? Most companies do it. Hey, here's an idea. Every 3 to 5 years, have our ISDs run a ZBB, a zero-based budget, and start from zero. Look at your M&O, maintenance and operations. Look at your interest and your rates that are going down. Look at what's actually happening within those budgets and where the money is going, because if we know where the money is going, we know where we can focus to actually get the quality education we need. I'm all for school vouchers simply because that gives you, the parents, the capability of moving children into an area outside of being locked into a zip code.
I too support public schools. I went to one, graduated from a public university. But my position on this is probably from a different perspective than the other two candidates on this stage. And it's simply because this particular measure in the State House wasn't just a blanket every school in the state of Texas. Mr. Holland's right, our schools here are great. No one's complaining about them. This particular measure that Governor Abbott was pushing for was to serve underprivileged communities. And that is the vast difference. As someone who survived one of those underprivileged communities, I can tell you right now, there are families who are desperate to get their children out of that failed public school and into a school where they can learn reading, writing, and arithmetic. Not what gender do you want to be. That's where we are today. We didn't deal with this 30 years ago. And we know school choice works because it's working all over the country. And if it didn't, people wouldn't be on their knees when they didn't make it in the lottery.
I was elected to represent Texas House District 33, not Dallas, not Houston, not Austin, not San Antonio, and I do not believe that my children and your children and grandchildren are locked into 75032, 75087, 75189. We're proud to be here. Our schools are not woke. Our schools are not indoctrinating our children. I am proud to send both of my kids to Rockwall ISD. I'm proud of those teachers and I'm proud of all those schools, and I will never stop fighting for public education.
And we have a 60-second rebuttal.
I'll repeat, this had nothing to do with Rockwall ISD, and I believe the people of this district voted for school choice by 85%. Now, unless we're saying that the people in Rockwall just don't care about the disadvantaged students across the state, I don't believe that. I will support you and represent you and your 85% support of school choice in the state.
Thank you, Mr. Greenberg. The final 3 questions will be coming from up here. Everybody take a deep breath and exhale. These are going to be 3 good ones. All right, this next question, the order will be London, Pierson, Holland. Here's the question. Do you support Dave Phelan for another term as Speaker of the Texas House? Why or why not? And what are your expectations of the Speaker? I'm going to repeat that again because we were interrupted. Do you support Dave Phelan for another term as Speaker of the Texas House? Why or why not? What are your expectations of the Speaker? Mr. London.
No. Representative Phelan, Speaker Phelan, whatever we want to refer to him as, he was very clear in his objection to the overwhelming majority of over 90% of Republican voters who all said we want to stop the practice of giving our Republican Party power over to the Democrats. He continued to appoint Democrats. He is friendly to the left, and I get it. You have to give a little to get a little. I understand that, but he shouldn't be as compromised as he is. And then there's also, I would have loved some explanation. Maybe he had a bad medical reaction or something, but instead, nobody bothered to rebut the fact that he was drunk on the floor. What I would love to do is I would love to make sure that we remove that bar from the legislative lounge, and there's no reason for them to be drinking on the job because none of us can drink on the job and it makes for anything.
Ms. Pierson.
For the sake of repeating everything Dennis just said, my answer is unequivocally no. I will not support a Republican backed by the AFL-CIO. I just won't do it. Not to mention everything that Dennis just mentioned, but on top of that, we are talking about a speaker who put an Obama administration lawyer in part of the process. That's how your bills got killed this last session. So the answer is unequivocally no. I do not support Dave Phelan for speaker. And in fact, none of his people have actually claimed his endorsement or actually talking about it on the campaign trail.
Mr. Holland.
The way that the Speaker is chosen in the Texas House is by the Texas House Caucus, Republican Caucus. The answer is yes. I will support Dave Phelan again for Speaker. Since Dave Phelan has been the Speaker of the Texas House, we have passed constitutional carry, Second Amendment sanctuary state, the strongest border security legislation in the state of Texas. We have saved over 10,000 babies. We have done countless and countless conservative things, yet he's not conservative enough. More than any other speaker, Republican speaker in the history of the Texas House, we have delivered more conservative victories for you all in the last 4 years. Yes, I'll support Dave Phelan.
Please maintain your decorum. We're going to do an audible. This next question is just to Mr. Holland. Mr. Holland, both commissioner panels had one or more candidates reference working with other counties to go to Austin and seek to change the current path the legislature takes towards cities and counties with respect to development. Would you like to respond to this issue from the state side of the argument?
I'd be happy to. If you'll go back and you'll look at House Bill 1916 from the 88th regular session, I'm the author of that bill. That bill would require that only in Rockwall County, I bracketed the bill to Rockwall County. You can ask Judge New about this. He was there. Developers have to come to sit in front of the Commissioner's Court for input about infrastructure, water. Are we planning for schools? Are we planning for density, roads? Yes, I did that. I passed that bill. That bill died in the Texas Senate.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. These next two questions, since Mr. Holland had a carve-out question, these next two questions are for his opponents, in the order London and then Pierson. Here's the question. The incumbent won each of the county's 26 precincts in the 2022 Republican primary, each precinct by well over 65% against two opponents. And in the general election, the incumbent won over 73% in that year's general election. What specifically necessitates his ouster? Mr. London, 60 seconds. Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Holland did not come up with that question. Mr. London, you have 60 seconds.
Thank you. The reason that I feel that even though he did win by those margins, and congratulations on those, we have to take a look at his record. He's not representing us. He runs on his record and says that he's doing a great job, and you know, he did an okay job. He didn't do a great job. And when I refer to that, I mean our legislative priorities, that which we, the Republican Party, those people who were the delegates that were down in Austin, and they said, we want these things done. Over 5,000 Republicans voted on those, and those were the priorities that they were supposed to look at. They didn't do that. So we're going to sit there and we're going to go back and forth over what type of job, how good of a job, how bad of a job, or whatever. The simple fact of the matter is, he's not listening to us. And shall I remind you about the infamous tweet where the Republican Party of Texas and the SREC are defunct organizations that need an overhaul from the top down, and the local GOP was AWOL, and he could win without them. I don't understand that. Basically disavowing himself of the Republican Party. So that's why I feel he needs to go.
Ms. Pierson, answer, and it looks like you're antsy for a rebuttal. So Ms. Pierson, same question to you.
You should let him. For the sake of, again, echoing Mr. London, I'm running for a much different reason than that. I'm running because people in the district approached me and recruited me into this race. And I appreciate all the service that Mr. Holland has provided, because it is not easy to stand on principle. It is not easy to go through this election cycle after election cycle. And I've been doing this long enough to know that sometimes when you've been down there too long, you lose your way. Yep. And that is why I have been endorsed by dozens of local elected officials, former county officials, as well as some statewide officials, because there are conservatives all over this state looking at Rockwall saying you deserve better. Yeah. And that's why I'm running.
I'd like to take a chance to rebut that. Has anybody ever messed up and said something they shouldn't have and it was stupid and boneheaded? Have you ever done that? I'm sure nobody ever has. I know I have, and I did. And I apologize for it. Many of you were at the meeting that I came and I apologized to. One of the principles of being a Republican is called personal responsibility. I'm a man, and I will take responsibility for the things that I do and say, and I hope that I teach my daughters to do that. When you say something stupid, you do something stupid, you say you're sorry for it, and if we're Christians, we forgive each other.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. This is the last regular question before the closings. This last question, the order will be Pierson, Holland, and London. And here's the question. There has been significant buzz recently about the possibility of legalizing gambling in Texas, from online sports betting to casino gaming. Where do you stand on this issue? And if your position is not an all or nothing stance, what would you support and what would you oppose when it comes to bringing gambling to Texas? Ms. Pierson, 60 seconds.
As it stands today, without seeing any legislation, I'm an all or nothing person, meaning nothing. I do have a healthcare background, specifically in neuroscience, psychology, and psychiatry, and I've seen the damages that have come from gambling. We've seen how casinos specifically, and I know sports betting is a different topic, but I know that casinos themselves actually drive down property prices and increase domestic violence and divorce rates. So I'm not supportive of casinos in Texas.
Mr. Holland? So the initiative that has been brought before the Texas House and the Texas Senate, which I believe is longer than 10 years away before anybody would ever be comfortable with it, is a constitutional amendment to bring to the voters a destination resort-style gambling system, not casinos on every corner. What I support is taking it to the voters. So I would vote for a bill that took it to the voters to let you decide whether or not you wanted casinos in Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. Mr. London?
I do not support it, simply because gambling is an addiction. It becomes a mental health issue. It leads to more crime. It leads to all sorts of drug use and everything else that are going on. I mean, it's a gateway drug. It really is. I don't support it. And actually, my father-in-law said it best one time when he was telling me, because I was going out to Las Vegas for a conference. He said, remember, gambling is a tax on the mathematically challenged.
Thank you, Mr. London. That concludes the questions. We're going to roll into the closing statements here in a second. However, I got a few closing announcements. I'd like to make some thank yous. An event of this scale with this much planning does not just happen. I'd like to thank the following, and I'll probably forget some folks. Our co-sponsors this evening is the Rockwall, please hold your applause to the end, the Rockwall County Republican Women, the Rockwall County Republican Men, our timekeepers, Patty Maggio and Francis White, our co-moderators, Amy Norton, Andrew Greenberg. Our coffee was provided by Legendary Aviation Coffee. I'd like to thank the county government, our Commissioners Court for availing this public space for public events, our security detail, our IT folks were helpful, as well as our maintenance department and many others. All the volunteers that helped set up and all those that are going to be sticking around to break this down, our forum committee, the signing crew, the setup crew, and most of all, the Rockwall County Republican Party for putting this together. So feel free to give a thank you. We're going to move right into closing statements. Candidates, be advised you have 90 seconds this time. The green light will come on when we start, the yellow light at 30 seconds, and the red light when we are done. And once they are done with their closing statements, we will be adjourned. The order of closing statements will be Holland, Pierson, London, and those were drawn randomly. Mr. Holland, you have 90 seconds for your closing.
Thank you. I realize that we have obviously some clear disagreements here today, but it's been one of the greatest honors of my life to serve in this position. And in the time we've been there, we have delivered conservative victories. We've delivered border security, historic border security, property tax relief to the tune of $18 billion. We've delivered pro-life measures and pro-gun measures, and we've stopped kids from being trafficked, and we've stopped kids from being targeted on the internet with big tech. We've stopped gender modification surgeries on children, and we've stopped the sexually explicit books in schools. We still have so much to do. Like I said, President Trump has got to come back to the White House so that we can fix the border. We still have to keep funding the border. We need to make sure that China, North Korea, and Russia don't buy land near our farms and near our airports and bases. We have a lot I think we should eliminate every gun fee that there is in the state of Texas. We have so much more to do. And what this community deserves is somebody that's been in it for a long time. Somebody that's served in the boards and commissions, on the council, somebody that's been to the serving with Helping Hands and been to the Boys and Girls Club and been a Leadership Rockwall graduate, somebody that actually has invested in this community. That's what this community deserves. Somebody that knows it, because the reason that I am who I am and why I'm conservative is because I grew up around you folks. And I want to go back to Austin. I'm Justin Holland. I'm your state representative.
Ms. Pierson, you have 90 seconds.
Well, thank you all for being here, and thank you to the entities that put on this organization tonight. Look at this. You guys have record crowds, so congratulations to you on this event. I'm very honored to stand here today to have this discussion with you because it's very important that voters are informed when they go to the polls. And though I appreciate Mr. Holland's service, sometimes it requires change, and that's why we have elections. And we cannot continue to elect the same people over and over again and expect a different result. If you care about the Second Amendment in the state of Texas, I am the only candidate in the race that has been endorsed by Gun Owners of America and Texas Gun Rights. It is my commitment to you that I will never support, even discuss, infringing on your Second Amendment. And I invite all of you to join this movement. Go to KatrinaPierson.com, come on out to a meet and greet. I'd love to meet all of you. I ask you for your vote, and it would be the honor of my life to represent you in Austin on March 5th.
Mr. London, you have 90 seconds.
Again, thank you everybody for coming out. I just want to remind you that all the work that I put in over the 2023 legislative session was as a volunteer. I went down there on my own. So I'm going to stand before you and tell you something some of you don't know. I'm the only person standing in front of you today who went down to Austin on my own nickel and fought for your Republican legislative priorities. I worked with the State Republican Executive Committee. I worked with the Republican Party of Texas. I worked with the grassroots. And I also, you don't know this one yet, Ms. Pierson, I'm also endorsed by Gun Owners of America with an A+ rating simply because after the vote to infringe on the Second Amendment, I held a clay shoot called Shall Not Be Infringed because that is how much I believe in the Second Amendment. There's a lot of other things that we know. We've heard a lot of things back and forth regarding why somebody spends too much time or what they've done or what haven't they done. It's time for a change. Excuse me. Time for a change. That change is up to you. This is where you get to make your voice. We've heard the applause, we've heard the boos, we've heard everything else. Your voice counts in Austin, and you gotta make it count at the polls. Bring a friend, because you can't do it alone. Thank you.
Thank you to our candidates. Let's give them